104.5 The Team, your home for New York Yankees baseball. Of course, as I've been saying, 5 wins away from the world champion New York Yankees. Buster Olney with us right now. Buster, I know you picked this team to go to the postseason. I picked this team to go to the postseason, but they're better than we thought they were, right?
And that's because they've developed during the course of the year. It's been interesting to me to talk to other national media members, and I live in the New York area, so I see this team play a lot, and I've covered each of their playoff games during this October, and I've had people say to me, "Yeah, if they play the Dodgers, it's not really a close matchup." I'm like, they got a lot of really good parts of this team. Their bullpen's better than any other bullpen in baseball right now. Obviously the starting pitching has been better, and you have these, two tremendous guys in the middle of their lineup who are showing in recent days the ability to make adjustments under the greatest pressure. That's a pretty good core. And then you got, a shortstop who catches the ball and good defenders in center and left and right. There are a lot of really good parts of this team, which is why I think, not only obviously they have a chance to finish off series against the Astros, but certainly do damage in the World Series.
Buster, you brought it up, and I've been kind of thinking this myself. Is it time for us to stop looking at the starting rotation as a hindrance? Like they're really, really good, and they've stepped up all of them.
They have. Tanaka, throwing 94, 95 miles per hour at times. It feels like that. He really has injected a lot of adrenaline into his starts, the energy level that he's had. Severino, obviously, during the year, we saw how good he could be. But I think the guy that I think we really ought to wrap our heads around is CC Sabathia because he doesn't throw as hard as he used to anymore. I think that we're kind of like, well, okay, CC looked good in this game, but, geez, you hope he gets through 5 innings the next game. And you could tell he's made this great and full transition into a really effective pitcher who relies on secondary stuff, and he's really good at keeping hitters off balance. And he's been tremendous. And I do think in this series against the Astros, a team that has a lot of young players, you're seeing a lot of anxiety in that group. The idea that you would play games 3, 4, and 5 and allow a total of 11 hits to the Astros is mind-boggling, and part of that is the Yankees pitching, and I think part of that is the Astros psyche.
Buster Olney with us right now, 104.5 The Team.
Yeah, for as great as CC's been, Masahiro Tanaka's been fantastic as well, and now we almost have to have the discussion of Tanaka's future. Are we going to see Tanaka opt out now and test the market for his value?
I guess you could try, but I suspect that a lot of that will be tied to what's on the MRI with that elbow ligament, because if he still has this sort of flip the coin, partial tear of the elbow ligament, which is what it sounded like a few years ago, he probably would be crazy to opt out, because I can't imagine another team looking at that and saying, well, great, we could sign him to a long-term deal and he'd be a ticking time bomb. I don't know this, but I would bet that if Tanaka opted out of the deal, there probably would be champagne being popped in the Yankees front office, given how much money is owed to him, the flexibility that would provide the team, and of course it would mean they would bypass the medical uncertainty I was just talking about.
I know Levack doesn't want to think about this, but I'm going to ask the question. It hasn't happened since 2004, where a team was down 3-2 and came back and won a series. Is Houston capable of coming back and getting themselves into the World Series?
No. Heck yeah, they are. Levack, close your ears on this one. Look, I was in the Astros clubhouse after the game last night, right after that game, and it was clear, the crowd at Yankee Stadium completely got in the heads of the Astros players. I mean, they were just blown away by how that crowd was. Even the Yankees were blown away by it, and they were just amazed by what really turned into a hockey crowd at Yankee Stadium. And so Carlos Beltran, Brian McCann, after the game, called a team meeting and essentially told these guys, hey, hang in there, buck up. We definitely can come back. And Carlos said the sense was that that there were guys who were down. I thought A.J. Hinch did a really smart thing. He gave the players the day off today, encouraged them, go home, hang out with your family, get away from baseball, and they'll go into Game 6 on Friday with Justin Verlander, who's allowed about 1 run a game since he joined their team, and all it takes, guys, is one swing. In the first inning of Jose Altuve, it's a 2-run homer in the bottom of the first inning. bets are off. And then at that point, it becomes wide open as to who's going to win this series.
Buster, I know you have to say that for ratings reasons.
Oh, my God.
I know that's what that is. Buster, you'd be impressed with me. Obviously, I've been paying attention. I've been learning some things. I called that Keiko would be out of that game by the 5th inning last night. I called they'd win, and I said they're winning in 6. I mean, I think you're taking out Verlander because I think even though he had a great game, he's a little overworked for a guy his age.
At 124 pitches the other day, he didn't look too overworked. Justin Verlander is in a great spot, and it's going to take a lot for the Yankees to beat him. He's throwing the ball so well, and I'm not saying they can't. I'm just saying, and I still think that, the smart money's on the Yankees finishing this series and going on to the World Series at this point, but Verlander is on a roll. I had a long conversation with him the other day about his journey in recent seasons. Guys, during the 2014 season, he'd had surgery on his core in spring training because he suffered a tear while he was weightlifting, and his fastball velocity went down to 86 miles an hour. And he talked about how his mechanics were altered, and he's pushing the ball, and he wasn't really throwing it. And there was a game in Pittsburgh in which he lasted 1 inning, and he told me that, he had an argument with manager Brad Ausmus about taking him out after 1 inning, and then he went back, retreated behind the visitors' dugout in Pittsburgh, and burst into tears because he thought his days as a power pitcher were over. And then after working on his body during the course of the winter, learning about flexibility, learning about strengthening, and doing some things in his first exhibition game, he threw 95 miles per hour. And as he told me the story, he held out his arm. He said, "Look, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about that first 95 that I saw." So he's back, and he was the runner-up for the Cy Young Award last year. He's been dominant since he joined the Astros. They all talk about how transformative he is. So I wouldn't assume that you're going to beat Verlander in Game 6.
All right, well, I mean, you don't have to. I'll do it for both of us. Buster Olney with us. Buster, I look at this team, and I've been saying it probably too long now. I mean, to the point where it went from not making sense to kind of making sense. The comparisons to the 1996 team, is that at all fair to put that on this Yankee team?
Yeah, I think so. I think absolutely it is because you got this great core of young players who are going to be around for a long time, much as we – 95, 96, we were talking about Bernie Williams and Jorge Posada and Derek Jeter and Andy Pettit and Mariano Rivera. You got Aaron Judge. You got Gary Sanchez. Gleyber Torres is going to be in the mix probably next year. Greg Bird. And with the way that Brian Cashman thinks, he's going to be looking to get younger in other spots. For example, I think there's absolutely a natural match between the Cubs and the Yankees this winter on a possible deal, relief pitching that the Cubs need for Kyle Schwarber, who clearly is an American League player. They're going to have this group of young players for a long time, and it does feel like they're at the beginning of this stretch of years in which they're going to accomplish a lot together, especially given how transcendent a player and a personality that Aaron Judge is.
Buster, as you look at who the Yankees, and I look because I know you need this for ratings. If they win another game, who they could be facing? Are the Cubs just prolonging the inevitable right now?
Yeah, they'll face the Dodgers. And you probably don't want me to bring up the fact that only one team in Major League Baseball history has ever blown a 3-0 lead in the playoffs. You probably can search back your memory and figure out who that was.
No, I can't. It's a blank spot. I don't.
And I understand that. The Dodgers are the best team in baseball right now. Whoever plays the Dodgers, whether it's the Astros or the Yankees, they're going to be considered significant underdogs. But I will tell you this, I felt the same way, and I told you guys before the playoffs when the Yankees faced the Indians. I thought the Yankees matched up well with the Indians in a lot of regard, and I feel the same way if they played the Dodgers. A lot of the Dodgers' strengths, I think, would be offset by what the Yankees do well. And Aaron Judge changes things with one swing. He can, and we saw that in Game 4 when they're down, and he hits that rocket home run. As Todd Frazier explained, it's like it jump-started the whole team.
From all reports, maybe just hours away from it becoming officially announced that Alex Cora is going to be the manager of the Boston Red Sox. With that being there, who's in the clubhouse lead to be the next manager of the New York Mets?
Yeah, and I think Alex, you figured because of his history with the Red Sox that'll wind up being difference-making. I think Kevin Long is going to wind up being manager of the Mets. Oh. He's someone who knows the Mets organization well, having worked there as a hitting coach. He's developed strong relationships there. I think also, he's someone who, and the Mets are a different type of organization. They're not sort of that classic chain of command. Owner talks to the general manager, who talks to the assistant general manager, who talks to the manager. Kevin has a relationship with the owners, with the Mets, and I think that probably is going to help him in this race.
Buster, are you headed down to Houston?
Yes, and we'll be on ESPN Radio's broadcast coverage of Game 6. Do
me a favor, slip Kate Upton Severino's number so she can go home with a winning pitcher.
Wow. That's all I'm going to say.
I haven't got a wow out of you in a long time, Buster. I'm kind of proud of myself.
Because that's like seeing this giant pothole was just put in front of me, and I'm just going to steer right around it. Knowing Justin Verlander for as long as well as I have, wow, and that's the end.
No, I mean, that couple is just too cute. I can't stand it.
Oh, don't kiss up to him now.
No, every time he strikes somebody out, they go right to her, and she's jumping around like the world's cutest cheerleader. I'm just like, you're going to be crying in Game 6, girlfriend, okay?
I can't even say anything, okay?
All right, fair. You've got relationships to maintain. Buster Olney, man, we appreciate you.
With my employer, for one. Thank you.
Buster, if you want to take a step back to Albany Radio, Goz's seat could always be open.
Wait a second. Hang on. Buster, we'll talk to you next week, man.
See you guys.
Buster, thanks, man.